of the simplest ways to make a journal is to just take a couple of sheets of printer paper and put them together and fold them in half. Match the corners. Bring your fingers along here and then slide up and down, and you have a nice little journal. You can keep adding pages as you go. When you've got a few pages in, maybe after a week or after a few weeks when you've got quite a few pages, then you can staple it. You can staple it at the beginning, but the problem with that is that it's harder to add pages. So I usually like to just keep it like this and then staple it when I've finished all the pages inside or finished adding pages. If you don't want to have a sheet this big, you can cut it down either in half or in thirds, however big you want it. I'm going to go for about half. And then I can just put the papers inside. And now I have double the amount of pages in my book. And again, you can staple that when you have finished adding everything that you wanted to add. So that is a very simple journal that you can use. Another idea for an art journal or for little notebooks are these little notebooks that close up tight. They're perfect for keeping in your backpack or for giving as gifts, and perfect for keeping an art journal. For these two, I used old coloring book pages and I cut those up, which if you have one of those, you're welcome to use that, or you can decorate your own. I'm going to show you how to make one using one sheet of printer paper. If you don't have printer paper, you can use any paper that you have. You can use a cereal box or any other kind of box if you don't have paper. It's a little harder to fold a cereal box, but it's totally doable. Artists or problem solvers, you're going to use what you've got at home and come up with something awesome. The way that I'm going to do this one is I'm going to fold my paper in half, matching up the edges, folding it in half, and then I'm going to fold it in half again. And I'm folding it like this to give myself some lines to cut on so I know that they're going to be even. I'm going to open it up and fold the whole thing in half. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this first piece off, and this is going to be the cover. So for the cover, and that's 1/4, so we've got a quarter of the whole sheet for the cover. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold up a little bit on the bottom and make a nice crease here. And this is going to be the part that holds everything in and that we're going to staple. It's about a finger, finger and a half to, it's really fine however you're going to do it. It's a sample book that we're making to begin with, and as you make more and more, you'll get better and better at it. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to tuck this in, but you're not going to push it all the way down. So we're not going to go all the way down, we're just going to go partially in, and I'm going to fold that. This is where you're going to make your design. You can put somebody's name on it if it's going to be a gift. If it's going to be your art journal for the week, you could put the date on there. And the second thing we're going to do now is get our paper that we folded. And because we have the little lip on the edge here to hold everything together, these papers now are going to be a little bit too big to fit in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut down the middle. I'm going to stack these up, and I'm going to measure, and I see that I've got a little tiny bit that's a little bit going to be too tall, so I'm going to try to cut off that amount. I'm going to take it and fold it at that spot so I know where I can cut. Stack them together, so when I cut, I'm cutting both pages at once. And I'm going to just double check and make sure that's going to fit, and that looks like it's going to work. And so I can cut the rest of the lines. So this means I've got two pages 4, and 6. So we've got a 6-page notebook. We're going to tuck these inside the little lip here. And I'm going to staple along the bottom on the lip, but remember, you're going to staple it so that it's halfway between each side, but you're going to staple closer to the bottom here. If you staple up here at the top, you won't be able to tuck the paper in to close it. So I'm going to staple a little bit lower so that there's still some room here that I can tuck in. And now it's time to customize your notebook. If you want to make a couple of them to practice, that would be great. Or if you've got your first one done and you're ready to get going, you can start decorating it as you like. Have fun. Another type of art journal or book that you can make is an accordion fold book. And the way that you can make this is with a single sheet of copy paper. You can take it, and I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm going to fold up an edge that's maybe 1.5 fingers high. So I'm folding up this edge from the bottom up a couple of fingers. Measurement is not, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you should try to make it even along the edge. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to fold it in half. I'm matching up the corners, holding it in the middle so I know that it's in the right place, bringing a finger down, sliding across both ways. So now I have this paper folded in half, and I have a little edge here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the part with the edge, and I'm going to fold this up and meet it towards the middle of the page here. Matching up both edges, holding it with one hand, coming down with my finger, and then top and bottom. And the next thing I'll do is flip the whole thing over, and the last fold towards the middle, taking the bottom up to the middle, matching my edges, and having a nice crisp fold. The last step is folding this whole thing in half. And this last fold that we're folding in half is giving us this line here. The fold line becomes our cutting line. So I'm going to cut along that line so that I have 2 pieces of back-to-back folding paper. The next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to set both of them out, so it's going to be a long piece, and I have both of these folded edges towards each other. I'm not going to glue them together like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look, and you can see the valley fold here. It goes in, and on this sheet, there's also a valley fold that goes down inside. I'm going to glue them like this. I'm going to take this fold inside this fold and glue that whole thing together. So I'm going to have glue here and glue here and glue that all together. So let me get my glue stick. And I'm going to use a scrap piece of paper so that I don't get glue on my desk. I'm going to put glue here on this flap. And I'm going to fold this flap and put the glue on the top. Once you've done this a few times, I know the grade 2s and 3s have already made these accordion books, so they will know it sounds harder than it actually is. So you might need to practice it a couple of times to get the idea, but once you do, you will get the hang of it and be fine. And so now what we've got is we have this accordion. We're just going to refold all of the folds. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you've got your accordion book. The sample that I showed you has birds on it. And you'll notice that each page has a different bird. And you'll also notice that the backgrounds start to blend together. So this is just one idea. You don't have to do birds and you don't have to do a background like this. You could have different words on each page. You could have many different things. It could become a whole scene. So the idea with this one was that the backgrounds are just a little bit different and they start to change as they move across. And I think words are probably the next step for this one. So this is an accordion fold book, and this one is pretty easy. You can make it with the one sheet of paper. You could also make it longer if you wanted, and you can also make them so that they have covers on them. And here is a sample of one that is an accordion fold book with folds the other way, but with a cover on it. So all we did with this one was glue the last page onto a bit of thicker paper. And is this another one here? This one is also, last page is glued on into a little cover. Well, that's it. That's an easy accordion fold book for your art journal.